You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Taking it back to the 90s, but I'm taking it back to another podcast with Brian. Now, how do you say your last name? Is it McKanna?
Yes, McKanna.
First try. Look at that. I'm getting better at these name pronunciations.
I'm impressed, man. And so wait, give me your name. It's Robbie
Robertson.
Robertson. That's got to be a made-up radio name. Come on.
No, yeah, that's just funny too, because I'm telling you, my anxiety through school was the fact that my name is Robertson. So whenever the teacher began the class, they'd see my name and they'd be like, Robertson. And I'm like, it's not a disease. You just say it. It's
I don't know, man. After you're gone, they might name a disease after you with that kind of name.
I hope it's something like destructive though, like nothing like selfish, like, what would you call it? I wouldn't want like some simple flu named after me. I'd want something like that, like wipes out half the population.
Oh, no. Trust me, your name, it'll be the apocalypse disease.
That's
for
what
sure.
Ravage the land.
You're a sweet guy. Anyone ever tell you that?
A little bit. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Brian, and what do you do professionally?
Yeah, so I actually just started a new job about a month ago. I'm in sales essentially, and I'll skip all the boring minutia of it. But essentially, I am a manufacturer's rep. It's all commercial plumbing supplies, so PVC pipe, drains, sinks, faucets, all that fun shit we put in your house, and apartment buildings and commercial buildings. But that's my boring day job. My fun job, the one that I love, besides doing the 90s Guys podcast, I also work as a part-time radio DJ here in St. Louis, Missouri.
No way. So do you have the radio voice, sir?
The radio voice? I don't know, but I'll tell you what, we're playing all the hits and going 95 minutes commercial-free right here on Now 96.3.
Oh, you have the regular voice when you do it. See, my family's they'll own their own radio stations and stuff. So my whole family's been in broadcasting, and I can always tell when they're using their radio voice. Like for either one of my parents, when I hear them talk and then I hear them on the radio, it's completely different. They'll be like, "You're listening to 93.5 The Beach, and we're going to bring you the best of rock." I'm like, "What's wrong with you?"
You're like, stop puking on the air.
You know how awkward that would sound if you're at the dinner table? Can you pass the mashed potatoes so I can get some gravy on them suckers?
You're going to need a lot of therapy. That's all I know.
Yeah, you're going to be talking to your therapist like, I don't know what's wrong. They keep radioing our life. I don't know.
But wait, so you're telling me they can turn that off when they come home? They don't act like that just talking to you normally?
It's completely different. And I can always tell when they do a commercial, like you're listening to the 90, and it's like this broadcaster voice. And I noticed like I have my uncle does we have a local baseball team like Shorebird Stadium. They're like minor leagues. And he does the announcing for the stadium. So like when you're sitting there and he goes, "Here comes number 35 coming up to the bat." Like that's him. And I talk to him normally. I'm like, what is this alternate ego? And sometimes they don't even know they're doing it.
Right.
Like it's common when you talk to someone in radio, like I'll meet them and I'm like, why do you sound completely different on air? And they phase right into it. And that was actually one of the problems my dad asked me when I started doing a podcast. He's like, "Have you picked a radio voice, or are you just going to talk normally?" I'm like, "I'm going to talk normally," because you know how long or how hard it would be to keep that up for like 2 hours?
Oh my God. Yeah. They're just doing like top 40 kind of stuff where they're announcing songs.
Yeah, they're like, "Yeah, you're about to listen to Black Eyed Peas, Pump It Up," and then like next thing you know, they just play the song. But they only talk for like a minute and a half at a time. You know,
Right.
when you hear talk radio, they're sitting there and they're actually talking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, trust me. I know exactly what you mean. And I'll tell you what, I only do a 5-hour radio show once a week. I'm exhausted after that. I can't imagine doing it 5 days a week, with that kind of energy and intensity.
No, my dad would he used to take me into the radio station because he's been all over the place. These country stations, reggae stations, rock stations. He's the program director, so he lines up all the music for like the week. and everyone else just really has to hit a button and then hit play. And so he gets all that stuff set up. But I remember he, like, instead of going to school, he'd just wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning when I was like 4 or 5. He'd be like, "Come on, toss a pillow in the car." I'd sleep all the way to the office. And next thing you know, my whole childhood was like running down the radio stations, hopping into rooms, getting on air when I was like a little kid. Like, "Say hi, Robbie." I'm like, "Hey." And he's like, "Well, that's a man of few words. That's my son, Robbie." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." Like it was so weird. Like, it was a weird lifestyle now that I think about it for a kid, because I remember being in the conference room and there was the guys that did Froggy 99.9. It's a country station. And they were all over. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's Whiskey and Randy in the morning." And I just saw those guys like walk right in the door and they're sitting there just talking. I just wave at them and they're like, hey, they're waving back like they're normal people. And
Yeah.
it's crazy to think, because you hear people on the radio, you're like, "Oh, they're famous, they're famous." I'm like, they're average day people.
Right. You know what? I had that exact same experience, because before I went into radio, I'm a total radio junkie, as I'm sure it sounds like you are too. I went into a station that it's actually a company that owns 5 different radio stations, one of which happens to be like one of the biggest radio stations to ever be, KMOX in St. Louis, just massive, broadcast the Cardinals, known like, internationally. But I came in and I started to meet all these people who I idolized. And at first, I was totally awkward around them. Like I'd go up and see them, and I couldn't talk right. I was awkward. I wouldn't say the right thing. And after like 2 months, I came to the same realization you did. I'm like, oh my God, like, Dave is just a normal dude that comes on the radio for 4 hours a day, goes home. He was a god to me before I got in there. And then I realized the same thing. They're doing a job like anybody else. Their job just happens to be something with a bit of a celebrity status to it, although, minute.
What do you find is the funnest aspect of being a radio broadcaster?
Oh my, okay. You know what? This is a totally self-serving part of it, but I just love the fact that uh, it's a great brag. I mean, like for me, I wasn't like the most popular guy in high school. I had a group of friends, but now people hear me on the radio. It's I feel cool. I feel like I get to walk in and I have 50,000 watts of power. I'm sending my voice out. People have contacted me and been like, "Oh, it's so cool. I heard you on the radio. That's awesome." And I would say besides that, and I'm sure you've experienced this your entire life, but the perks are unbelievable. I mean,
Oh, dude, let me tell you.
concert tickets.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, now it sucks now because I'm 21 years old, but I don't really want to go to concerts that much anymore. Like, I don't feel like traveling because it's just too far. And
What?
they're like, "Dude, you're now the age to get into any concert you want." Before, it had to be under 21, had to be all these things. And I've met so many bands. I mean, I've met Slightly Stupid, I've met Pepper, I've met the Expendables, I've met the Dirty Heads, I've met uh, the list goes on and on, dude. I've met my dad. Actually, he's in a Kiss tribute band. So
No.
yeah, so he plays in a band called Rock Bottom, and this is how I've known my dad. My dad is the radio guy, and then at nights he goes either DJing or he's playing a band gig dressed up as Peter Criss. So in Baltimore, there's like a pretty big place. It's called Ram's Head Live, and he played in front of like a 1,000 something people. And it, like, you don't know the feeling when you have that as your dad. You're just like walking around like, "Yeah, you can't touch me." Like, no. Like
Right.
any gig I went to with him, I immediately was just like untouchable. I could go back in the back bar part, grab a drink, and just walk by. I was like, "What's this little kid doing?" And he's like, "Oh, that's Skip's kid." And it was like, "Oh, that's Skip's kid. Okay, okay, and just stay away from me." And I'm like,
Right.
it was awesome, but it was crazy at the same time because I was so normalized with that as a kid. Like, it's my birthday or something, and my mom or my dad would be on the radio, be like, "This is for my son Robbie out there," and then bam, they'll play one of my favorite songs. And then like I hear like stories, like my dad will be a storyteller on the air or something, and like he'll be like I'll walk into the office, you don't even know what they're doing behind the scenes. Like, they're sitting there talking to you, full on conversation, and he's throwing a ball with me back and forth, like totally not even paying attention to what he's saying.
Right. He sounds like a natural. How many years has he been in radio?
Oh, he's been doing it for like 40 something years now.
Oh my God.
He owns his own country station with a bunch of other people now. He actually runs his own thing, and he loves that so much better, man.
I'll tell you what, you are destined to be in radio probably your entire life
That's
because
what he said to me too. He goes, "Wait,
yeah,
you're doing a podcast?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Why don't I just give you your own radio segment for an hour?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "You would have literally your own segment. You get to do whatever you want. I would set these up so you would have people to talk to, like conversation." I'm like, "Nah." And he goes, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I don't want to use your name. I want to do this myself."
see, and good for you. I feel this. I feel the exact same way because I know people locally who are in radio because of their parents, and they never get the respect that they're owed, even if they truly have talent. And I think that you're doing the right thing because think about it too. Radio's fine, but let's be honest. Everything's moving towards podcasting. It's such a popular medium at this point. And that's actually why Jed and I jumped into it because there's a huge opportunity to make a name for yourself, not just locally, but now nationally with a podcast.
Yeah, well, it's so difficult because with like radio, there's a lot of guidelines you have to follow by. You can't like curse a certain amount of times in the air. You can't do these certain things. I remember my dad told me a story. Like he got a kiss tattoo on his arm while he was on radio. So they're tattoo, and this is back in the day. So it took a long time just to get this like shoulder tattoo done. So he's getting it done on air, and as he's talking, he's like, "Oh shit!" Like and people are like, "What? Oh my god!" He's saying it on the radio, and he's trying his hardest like not to, but man, his stories, like I remember him leaving at 1 o'clock in the morning, heading down to the radio station because they had dead air. Like
Oh,
it was just silence. And he was like, I got to go to the station and fix this. And I'm like,
yeah.
like music has been and broadcasting has been all throughout my life. And I always asked him like, well, like, how do you still do it? Like you're switching different genres and stuff. I get it gets old. And whenever I was in the car with him, he would never listen to the radio.
Right. Because that's
Never.
being at work for him. You
Yeah,
know.
he was like, "I get it enough." He's like, "I'd rather listen to nature right now." And his
Right.
stories he tells about it, like he can go on and on with them, but they're so amazing. It made me kind of want to be able to do that just on the concept of it was so normalized. Like a lot of kids are like, "What? You were on the radio?" And to me, it was like, "Yeah, like it's an everyday thing for me."
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Are you a Howard Stern guy at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, because your story reminds me a ton of Howard's story because his dad was a radio engineer. He did a lot of cartoon voice recording back in the day, but Howard basically grew up in a radio station, and so he was around that. He was in tune to it from a very young age. You sound like you have the exact same thing going on. I wonder, are you looking to long term do something like a long format kind of talk show or podcast?
I mean, besides this is really it. This is the only thing I kind of want to keep on doing because the stories you hear and the conversations you can have. Like 1 minute you could be talking about Bigfoot, next minute you're talking about, it just gives everybody a platform to be able to just have a conversation. Like I've had a couple people message me like, I don't mean anything, man. I'm not interesting. I'm sorry, I can't do anything for your podcast. I'm like, dude, you mean something to somebody and you have something interesting about you. So let's hear it.
Right. I love that. I totally agree. Everybody's got a story.
And
Um,
all right, before we start diving into the realm of my podcast, let's not do that. I hate promoting myself. Whenever I go on someone else's podcast, they're like, tell us a little bit about yours. I'm like, it's called Out of the Blank. You can look it up.
find out for yourself.
So I actually want to kind of take it to a little bit. We're going to throw it back. Okay. Just like my years as a child dealing in the radio industry. Let's talk about your podcast that focuses completely on the best parts of my life, the 90s.
Yes. Amen. That's what it's all about, man. I think we all love the 90s. How could you not? It was easily one of the best times in US history, in my opinion.
What's one of the things you miss the most from the 90s?
Oh my God. What are you doing to me, man? That's an impossible question. I'll give you a couple that are like my top three or four. And again, this is something that I think a lot of people might say, and it's also very cheesy, but in a way it was a lot simpler time. Like, now I'm addicted to my cell phone. My wife's addicted to her cell phone. Everybody is addicted to their cell phones. I love that back then I got to spend a lot of quality time with people and it wasn't in between looking at their phones. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
genuine time spent together.
There's no connection anymore. Like you go to a restaurant, what's the first thing everybody's doing? They're on their cell phone, not even entertaining the idea of each other. Like you guys just spent $60 to go out and eat together, and now you're not going to sit there and talk. You're going to stare at your phone the whole meal.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, listen, we had cell phones back in the 90s, but it wasn't anything like it is now. So I would have to say, like, the simplicity I loved. Also, one of the things we focus on, actually, the thing we focus on most in our podcast, I miss the cartoons from the 90s. I mean, it was the golden age of cartoon television with Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon battling it out for 10 good years.
You got slimed, bro.
Amen. Oh my God. Think about all the not just the cartoons, but all the live programming Nickelodeon did back in the 90s with all
Amanda
that
Show,
Amanda Show.
the
Kenan and
SNL
Kel.
for kids, man. Oh, dude, I actually hated King of Hill, to be honest with you.
Oh no, I said Kenan and Kel, man.
Oh, I thought you said King of the Hill. I was like, that show, man. I can't. He's too bland for me. All he does is talk about propane and beef.
I know, but hey, how about the fact that Mike Judge, who created King of the Hill, also created Beavis and Butthead?
Oh, yeah.
Were you a Beavis and Butthead kind of guy?
Here, I'm Cornelio.
Cool, Beavis.
I do those shows were awesome, man. I'm telling you. I think one of my all-time favorite things, like cartoon-wise, I loved a good old Johnny Bravo, man.
Oh, amen. Before the Me Too movement.
Yeah, before you couldn't, but that showed the best aspect of, if you're a dick, if you're an alpha male, you're not going to get the chick. You have to treat them with respect. That's what it taught us. But
amen.
It went the complete opposite way now. Now it's like, oh, that's offensive to women. It was like, no, it was supposed to be like that. So it let you know that's not how you're supposed to act.
Yeah, it was a parody of a douchebag that hits on women constantly. And it was hilarious. I mean, God, you know what? There's so many like different aspects of cartoons back in the 90s that we will never see again because of the political correctness that's going on right now. And I think that's terrible.
The weird thing is the way we're taking it as a society is we're taking it the wrong way. We're getting too sensitive over stuff.
Yeah.
Like now Teen Titans, that was a beautiful show back in the day. Not anymore. It got turned into Teen Titans Go. And now I realize they have to fit it to a different audience. They have to do this. There's a younger generation that wants to learn about it. But you know what it was like? You couldn't play nowadays? You couldn't have Elmer Fudd try and kill a rabbit. You couldn't.
Oh, no way.
No, PETA would be on that in like 5 minutes flat.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I totally understand. There's a time and place to be sensitive about certain things, but it's like when we're talking about a cartoon, kids stuff, why do we have to be so serious? Why do we have to take away that innocence? That was the whole thing about cartoons. They were stupid. They were silly. It was like fart jokes and stupid humor. And that's the beauty of it. And I think that is probably one of the best aspects of the 90s. But I want to ask you, I want to kind of flip it onto you. What would you say was one of the best parts of the 90s?
Now, or are we talking about show? Because I have a lot of things from the 90s I do love. I'll start with the show.
Give me show.
Okay. I really love Ed, Edd n Eddy, Encourage the Cowardly Dog. But there was one show above them all that I will have to say I really did. I mean, overall enjoyed. I would have to say it would be Tom and Jerry, man.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That show was so there was no talking. It was just orchestrated music the whole time. I took a music appreciation class and he was like, anybody here like orchestra? And then everyone's like not saying anything, like basically no. And he goes, well, if you guys like Tom and Jerry, and everyone's like, yeah. He goes, well, you just like orchestra because you like the music. And I realized he played it without the music in the background. It was just Tom and Jerry. Yeah. It was so awkward. There was nothing. It was dead silence, dead air. And then they played with the orchestra, and then it was like it added so much more intensity to the scenes.
Wow. You know what? I've never thought of it, but I know what you mean. Like the music accented their movements and their different things they were doing.
Yeah, it's crazy because like when the running coming up, there's like a slide whistle and then the violins going really really fast, like they're being chased through it. Like those all added something to that, and I remembered it like there was not really any talking, but it was such a good show. The cat and the mouse, like he's always going after the mouse and he never catches him, and then when he does catch him, he is so apologetic and so sorry for it.
You know what? The brilliance of cartoons. And think about it like this: those guys who made that cartoon had to be smart enough and have enough like nuance about life and how different things work to entertain you for that long without any dialogue, zero talking.
I
It's
think
impressive.
I think that old cartoon shows that taught us lessons, I believe they're the people they hire to make fortune cookies because it always seems like they're dropping wisdom on you 24/7.
You know what? You could be right. Although I did just visit a fortune cookie factory a couple months ago, and I'm pretty sure that those people who write fortune cookies are on drugs.
They're,
I'm telling you.
I mean, they're getting like
You-
25 cents an hour.
Oh my god! You go in there and it's like they look like they're strung out on meth, and they're freaking like next to a super hot machine pressing like patties and cookies all day.
They're definitely not happy. I mean, how do you think the Girl Scouts felt back in the day? They were more of an impending fear on me back in the day than they are now. Now I just say, I'm sorry, all I have is a debit card and I walk away.
And they don't like put a gun to your head or anything.
No, I mean, they follow me and beat me up in the parking lot, but I'm all right with that. It's better than when I was a kid and I felt obligated. I had $5. My mom would be like, go run in the store. First thing I'm doing is I'm heading over to the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but not even the real ones, the fake Japanese ones where you get them and they're all like holographic and the dude's got like 10,000 plus attack power.
Oh yeah. Oh man. See, you did the wrong thing though. You got to fight back. Just beat the shit out of the Girl Scouts. I mean, who cares? You know, you can run.
You know what's so sexist about it though is if it was Boy Scouts, you wouldn't be donating.
You know what? You're right.
You won't even donate to a kid in Africa. You rather donate to Sarah McLachlan in her SPCA commercial that is completely doing it the wrong way.
Yeah, but in the same way, I wouldn't give a dime to the Girl Scouts if I wasn't getting incredible cookies. You know what I mean?
All right, you're right. Those Momoa things, I forgot what it's like coconut.
Samoas.
Oh my god.
Man, I know. But the best is the way you got to do it. You get the Thin Mints, you throw them in the fridge, and then about an hour later, you eat the entire sleeve. And then if you're me, because I got to keep my girlish figure for the radio, you got to go vomit it up. And that's a little pro tip for all you kids out there.
Yeah, you swallow a Cheerio. That's the best way.
Exactly.
You know what's crazy? One of the things I do miss about the 90s when it comes to like food was like Dunkaroos and the Lunchables. Oh. Not the Lunchables, but the kids' cuisine.
Yes.
Dude, that penguin made your fucking day.
Oh, that penguin was my entire summer. I mean, yeah. And then they'd have the different promotions with the what's it called again? Oh, the kids' cuisines. I loved, my favorite was they had a promotion with the Lion King back in the day. And you got like you know how you got like an entree, a couple sides, and one dessert, right?
Yeah.
So back in the day when they teamed with Lion King, they did one where you got like gelatin or like a pudding, and inside of it were like little bugs that, you know, Timon and Pumbaa bugs, and they were incredible. Right now I would probably pay $100 if I could have that exact kid cuisine tonight.
You know, you said it best. Like the reason why you guys focus on the 90s, it was a much simpler time, dude. I mean, do you remember belly washers?
Oh, how can you forget belly washer?
Used to collect the caps. I remember on a road trip to Florida, I pissed my mom off so bad when I had a baby bottle pop and it had like the one where you lick it and you dip it into the powdered thing. And I stuck it in the like back in the day, like the little the Cadillacs, they have the change kind of holder in the back.
Yeah.
I dumped all the powder in there and was dipping it that way because it was easier than dipping it in the bottle. And she spent hours trying to clean up the car, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't."
What? She tell me she came down on you for your ingenuity because you said, "Hey, you're like, I need more space to dunk. I'm not getting optimal space for my baby bottle pop."
It was like when she always yelled at me about, remember those little red coupon things they would have in the grocery store, and you used to grab like 50 of them because they would just keep dispensing.
Oh, yes, I do. I forgot about those.
And you ended up leaving them in your pocket. And then when you go inside your car or something, like, oh, I forgot to use these. And then you just have a bunch of them laying around your house.
Listen, did anybody ever really use those coupons? I mean,
feel
let's
like
be honest.
there's some elderly woman out there like, those things saved me a nickel on a dime. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and then some Nigerian prince came through and took her entire fortune.
Now, I can't remember if it was the 90s or the 2000s that this came out, but do you remember a toy called Scanners?
Oh, well, okay, let me see if we're talking about the same thing.
The thing you went into a grocery store and you scanned
Yes.
a barcode and you randomly got a monster.
You got monsters. Absolutely.
I just went on Amazon like 2 weeks ago and actually rebought one of those.
Wait, do they actually still work?
Yes.
What?
It sucks though, because apparently back then it was a certain code like that was part of the sponsored product that would give you the monster, which I
Right.
didn't know. So I'm scanning it in the store at the age of like 21 and people are looking at me like I'm a weirdo, and I'm
Right.
not getting any monsters. I'm just sitting there basically scanning stuff. I was like, this sucks.
But you know what? I feel like an idiot because I would go to the grocery store with my thing, and I literally found one monster the entire time I had this toy. I could never ever find monsters. Did you?
No, I couldn't, because I didn't know that it was a certain sponsored item. My brother knew that because he was older than me. My brother's around
Oh.
your age. So I was a lot younger. So I'm sitting there running and scanning everything in this grocery store. Like I ended up hiding under the coat room rack or whatever when you're like trying to hide from your parents. Well, I was running around the store and they had to keep calling, can Robbie please come to the front of the store? And I'm like, nope, I'm too busy scanning shit. Too busy scanning. Too busy.
You're like, Mom, I got to get more monsters.
Yeah, right. It's crazy because there were so many awesome things about the 90s that a lot of people even me, I just completely forgot about.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's part of the reason we wanted to do this podcast is because not only did, you and everyone else forget about it, but there's stuff that we've kind of remembered and, gotten to think about and talk about and discuss on this podcast. Like you brought up one of them, Dunkaroos. It has to be one of the greatest snacks ever known to man. And I have no clue why they would take it off the shelves, but we no longer have Dunkaroos. I don't get it.
I tell you, man, some of the times I miss the most are probably the times when I was a child before the real problems of the world sunk in. Like when you're when you're sitting at home and you put in a VHS tape and then you got the FBI warning that popped up right in the beginning.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, this is serious crime. And nowadays kids are like, I'm just going to watch it on my phone.
Right. They're like, let me just illegally download this. We'll watch this movie.
They'll never know the struggle of walking to the bus stop with a CD player.
Oh, and you had to hold it just right, or your CD would totally get fucking scratched to shit.
Like you had the shittiest headphones possible, and like they barely worked. And you had to basically you picked one CD, you carried it to the bus stop. You were stuck with that CD. There's no other songs you can listen to except what's on that disc.
Right. Well, you know what? And it's funny because it's been a natural progression because a big thing I remember is having my first ever MP3 player. And God, I think it had like maybe a quarter of a gig on it, if that. So you had to pick like your top maybe 30, 35 songs you wanted to play. And like I would come home from school and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to put this one on. You had to do like a mathematical equation to figure out what songs you were going to have on your podcast, or not your podcast, your MP3 player.
It was always weird for me because like my family, like coming from like parents, DJs, broadcasting, we had all these CDs in the garage. So I just would go, like my dad, he met Wee Man. Actually, this is the story I want to say. So my dad actually was in a commercial that you can look up on YouTube. It's a Swedish commercial, but he got to play with Kiss, the actual band members.
What?
Yeah. So if you're watching this commercial, it's this Swedish guy like listening to Kiss with his at a gas station, listening, like pumping up. He goes inside the gas station and gets a drink. He comes back out and he's like, why is my music stopped? And he turns around in the back seat and it's Gene Simmons, Peter Criss, everybody all in the back. And he goes, guys, why have you stopped playing? He goes, well, you went inside. We thought we'd get a drink or we'd just take a break. He goes, no, turn it back up. And then as they're driving away, you see this dude playing drums on the back of the truck as they're driving away. That's my dad.
Oh, nice.
And I saw that. I was like, you literally met your idols. You met your favorite band. And he's like, it was awesome. He goes, and the crappy part was they were in such a rush because they were like 3 hours late. fame and fortune, all that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they couldn't really take pictures. He only got like one good picture with them. But
What?
it was cool because like working at a radio station, my dad met so many famous people, and I was like, he met Green Day, and then he got all the stuff signed, and then he like handed it to me. He's like, check it out, and I was like, what? Like you just met, the guy that I basically spent my childhood anxiety listening to, like American Idiot, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I mean, bring me back to Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, please.
Oh, amen. And actually, if we can segue with that, how about Tony Hawk on the PlayStation 2?
Dude, which one? Pro Skater 3?
Oh, I know. I don't care what it is. Any Tony Hawk on the PlayStation 2 was incredible. I mean, like, you didn't even really play to like beat any like levels or anything. It was just all like skateboarding around, jumping off stuff, doing tricks. It was a nonsense game, but it was incredible. Did you play Tony Hawk?
I did play Tony Hawk. I played that one, but I think my all-time favorite one was the one for Xbox. The one,
Xbox.
the American Wasteland.
Oh, see,
You had to
man,
build. You had to build your own park and stuff. Like I played Pro Skater 3, and is it Pro Skater 3 or Pro Skater 2? Where you get I thought the best part was you get to customize your own, park and stuff, and you get to also customize your own character. So I just make my dude super jacked, and then I'd just be like, I'd be doing like impossibles over and over again in the air, and until the point where I messed up, and my dude would just slam into the ground.
and die on impact.
Basically, it's funny because you could add like blood to your knees and stuff, and I actually got in trouble with that in school. We had to make a character, like a little stick figure person of ourselves, and you had to like color it in, and like you get to cut it out and put it up on the wall. And my dude was like, I was playing so much of Tony Hawk at the time where I just kept crashing and making my dude have bloody knees that I just made my character have bloody knees when we cut him out and put him up on the wall. And she called my parents. And my parents were like, "What's wrong with him?" And like, they're like, "Yeah, he's probably going to self harm." And I'm just sitting there like, "Oh, it's supposed to be a skater because you fall and you get like a scabby knee." Like, does anybody remember that now? Kids won't even know.
Yeah, and the teacher's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure you wanted to be a skater." And she's like, under her breath, "What a fucking freak."
Dude, that's something I used to do all the time too. Remember razors, like the scooters?
Oh, of course. Yeah, those are the best.
You thought you weren't cool unless you had a library card. I'm talking about you weren't cool unless you were scootering around town picking up hoes, yo.
Oh, absolutely, man. And and once you're done picking up the hose, once you did what you got to do, you fold that bad boy up and you go home. You know what I mean?
Like a badass. Like it's one of those drop the mic moments. Like you've heard about kids having Camaros at school. I'm telling you, you had a Razor scooter, ain't nobody messing with you.
No. And you know what? Razor scooters were actually also great for like picking up and beating the shit out of somebody. I don't know if you've gotten to experience that yet, but it's liberating.
And then you saw the kid that had the rollerblades thinking he was all that, like going and like listening to music and like totally like going backwards on it. And I just was like, here's a stick. I drop it right in front of him and wait for that thing to happen.
You're like, take that, bitch.
Like, I got a scooter, bro. We're better.
Hey man, I'm all down for the scooter life. I mean, I think I scootered too late. I scootered till I was like maybe 18 years old. I'm not gonna lie.
So, the craziest thing about the 90s I do miss is the fact that kids used to skateboard and their parents would not need to worry about them every single minute of the day.
Right.
So recently, there's this community that opened up near my buddy's house, and we've never been down it. We're trying to take a shortcut and kind of get through to get to the grocery store. It was a better way than going the long way around. So me and him decided to go, hey, let's skateboard. It's a nice night. Let's do it. So we go to this place and we got lost basically because all the homes were the exact same. It was a community. Like every single house looked exactly the same. We got lost for an hour and a half. You know what I found out back there? They have a water park. They have all this stuff in this private development. And the weirdest thing was, there were you got to see kids skateboarding on the street wearing helmets. You got to see parents like walking, like a pregnant woman I saw walking, pushing a stroller, and just everybody was walking their dog. I don't see that in my own community now. Like I don't see that on my own street. Nobody's ever outside playing.
Are you in the ghetto or what, man?
Dude, I'm in the normal, literally, I'm like a suburb type guy. But this was out in the suburbs where I went, this little special community. But where I'm at, like I'm kind of near the city. Nobody's out on the fucking streets. Nobody's doing anything. The kid's watching Netflix upstairs. My cousin got caught in the rain on his bike, and you know what he told me?
Huh.
He had to Uber home.
Oh, oh my God. Can you imagine being able to call an Uber back in the day?
Dude, nowadays kids are on this tablet. I think that's awesome being able to kind of like, do fun games on that, but nobody remembers like Leap Star or that like game you had like remember the Nintendo 64 where if the game didn't work, you took it out and you had to blow in it multiple times and shove it in there and see if it would work.
Oh, of course. Dude, listen, doing a blowjob back in the 90s, it was a totally different thing than it is now. Okay.
It's basically they were practicing, so now we should be benefiting from it, not getting worse at it.
You know what? I think that that's probably why we have a generation of, well, I'll just stop it there. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. I get it. I caught it on the down low. So I was talking to Jedediah, and he actually told me that you're a big fan of one of my favorite shows, Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh my gosh. You know what? To say I'm a big fan is an understatement. I mean, that show was like my entire life growing up. And I'll tell you a real short story. I told it on our podcast. I was such a huge fan back in the day, and I actually wanted to be a cartoonist. That was my dream. I was going to go to Hollywood, and I was going to work for Cartoon Network, and I was going to make this amazing show. Well, in doing that, I started to fall in love with all these people who created these cartoons, like Craig McCracken and John R. Dillsworth, all these different guys. And so I would write them. I would sit in my room and I would write them letters. I would say, "I love your show. You are like my role model. Thank you for putting this amazing content out." And no one ever wrote me back out of, I would say, maybe like 20, 30 letters, except for one guy, and that was John R. Dillsworth, the creator of Courage the Cowardly Dog. And he was the sweetest guy ever. He sent me, it was this really, in a way, a kind of creepy thing, which I love because that's what the show was all about. It was basically a picture of him sitting in the living room of Courage's house, sitting on the rocking chair that Muriel would usually sit on, with Courage on his lap, and he's sitting there with like the biggest, creepiest fucking smile on his face, like a child molester kind of freaky
Mr.
smile,
Mr. Rogers style.
Yeah, exactly. And on the back of this picture, he wrote me like the sweetest note, like, "Thank you so much for what you said, Brian. It means a lot knowing that people like you really enjoy the show. Don't let your dream die. Keep it up." And we actually, this is crazy. We exchanged emails, and we ended up being pen pals for, I would say, easily over a year. I mean, we wrote maybe every other week back and forth to each other.
Did he ever ask you to send him underwear?
You know what? No, he did not. But our conversations did end at a certain point. He got a little creepy with me. He was telling me about how he wants to come out with Courage apparel, like shirts and hats and stuff like that. And in one of his writings, he said, "Yeah, I'd like to send you one, and if you wouldn't mind, send me back a picture of yourself in it. I bet you'd look really sexy in it."
Whoa, he said
And
sexy?
he said sexy, and
How old were you?
I was about 11 years old at this
Okay,
point,
this is a problem.
and he was well aware of that. So, I'm not accusing John of anything, but it gave me a little bit of the creeps, and I ended up not responding after that.
It's like the neighbor that's like, "I have a pool. Would you like to come swim?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure." And the next thing you know, you go in the back and there's just like a little tiny inflatable pool, like a dog pool. You're like,
And their pants are already off.
"Yeah," and they already got the hose out. It's like, what's happening? That's a thing. That's a thing from the '90s too that I miss. Not getting hurt by an old man, but the fact that the garden hose. You used to drink from the hose when you were
Oh,
thirsty. Now it's like you're
yeah.
gonna die and you're gonna get like intestinal AIDS. I'm like, what's happening?
Intestinal AIDS? Is that what they're saying now?
Oh, dude, it goes on and on
Jesus.
and on.
Oh, you know what? It's funny though. Even as a kid, I always heard if you drank out of the hose, you would get a tapeworm. And knowing that information, I still always drank out of the hose. It's like, who gives a fuck? I'm thirsty. I'm outside. What am I gonna do?
Dude, the first thing I did was I bought a super soaker and I filled it with a soda and I was spraying that.
Well, you have cancer now then.
Oh God, I knew that's what happened. Yeah, if the heat of the plastic gets inside of the water, if you leave the soaker gun out and then you drink from it, you can get cancer. It sounded like the load of crap my parents told me on Halloween when they were like, "We need to check your Snickers and candy for something dangerous."
And you're like, listen, just because I ate one razor doesn't mean you have to check every piece of candy.
And that's a myth. I did a podcast on it. That was just a thing. It was actually one reported case. It was a dad that poisoned his own son and then started poisoning kids in the neighborhood.
Oh,
He
oh
did
my
it for
God.
insurance money. I was like, so you basically ruined it for all of us. The fact that I didn't get to eat any of the good candy because my parents had to inspect it first.
See, it's funny that your parents were that serious about it because mine, they always wanted to look at my candy, but who knows how much they really cared. They would basically give it a once over and be like, yeah, it looks all right. I mean,
It's
did your,
it's if you had to say one thing back in your like obviously when you were watching these shows, you had a favorite snack that you religiously ate as a kid. What was it?
you know what? It's a toss up. It's either got to be popcorn or pickles. And I know it sounds weird, but those were the
Oh no, it doesn't
go-to.
sound weird at all. You psychopath. No, just popcorn and pickles. What? How do you even get that combination together?
You know what? I don't know. You know what? Listen, pickles are incredible, and popcorn's essentially like bread. Like it's a filling thing. You eat a pickle, you're not full necessarily. You know what I mean? It's a light snack.
Mine would have to be a bagel with butter on it in the microwave for like 20 seconds. Or when I used to watch Dragon Ball Z, like first thing in the morning, I
Hmm.
would have a 2 slices of bread, put 2 slices of cheese on each piece of or on 1 on each piece of bread, put pepperoni on it, put it together, and then stick it in the microwave for 20 seconds. Dude, melted
Yes.
cheese on a sandwich is like God's gift. Like, I don't know how I would
Yeah.
have survived in this world without that because I still don't even know how to use the oven today.
Oh, are you kidding me, man? Drunk at 2 a.m. That's still my go-to is to get the cheese, get the bread, get the pepperoni, and pig out basically.
Now, do you remember these toys that used to come in McDonald's Happy Meals, Neopets?
Oh, of course. Well, okay, so I remember the name, but I'm having a hard time thinking of what they were.
It's like Neopets were like this website, like you can make your own pets, like they're like wolves and all these things. It
Oh
was
yeah.
like, but the weird part was they would get super, super hungry to the point of dying, but then you didn't have to actually, they never died. They just got like, he's about to die. And I'm like, he's been about to die for 3 years now. I still have not checked on him.
That's a good lesson for kids. Just don't feed your pet and it'll always live.
That's why a Tamagotchi messed you up so bad because that thing actually died if you weren't on its ass every 5 seconds.
I know. And you know what? Jed and I actually covered an episode of Tamagotchi, and the consensus was that no one ever paid attention to their Tamagotchi. It was a fashion statement. If you had a Tamagotchi on your backpack, hanging off, or on your jeans or whatever, you were fucking cool. I mean, that's just how it was.
It's all right. So, and then they had the slap wristbands. You know what I'm talking about, where they
Oh,
slap it onto your wrist and it would just click all the way around. Like,
yeah.
that showed thug status at school. Like, some kid would just be like, "I'm going to end this argument," and just slap on one of those on his wrist.
Well, if you really want to end an argument, you slap it around their neck and then you suffocate them to death. That's a
Whoa,
good way to do it.
your mind goes to criminal intent. I like that.
I'm dark. Yeah.
So,
No, I actually gave Jed a slap bracelet for his birthday. Um,
I heard you. I heard one of your episodes. You were giving him something. Open up a present, and it was like "Happy Birthday, you bitch" on the inside of the whatever. That was funny as hell, man. Because like I listened to the Scrubs episode, and for like the first like 20 minutes, you guys were not talking about Scrubs. You guys were just ranting about stuff, and I was like, "This is awesome!" Like it brings real character into the conversation instead of just going straight to the topic.
you know what? I really appreciate that. That's how we do it in every single podcast. We have a first segment where it's basically we just bullshit, and a lot of times we actually play certain games. And in the second segment, that's where we totally dive into like the topic at hand. So I'm glad you like that. I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, dude, it was I mean, it's always awesome. You get to actually understand a person before, like when you just like when you're looking up a podcast, you obviously want to find whatever your specific topic is you want to talk about. And when you start listening to it, if you create like a really funny vibe in the beginning instead of being like, you're listening to this and we're going to be talking about this today. This is why we talk about the radio broadcasting voice. Like if you just have a boring, bland voice, it's very hard for someone to listen to. Like on page one, Bueller. It's like, oh my
Right.
God, let's get to the please.
Yeah, it's like that's the boring shit that my dad listened to growing up. Who wants to hear that? Yeah, and it's funny too. So let me ask you this, because you do a podcast and you've been in this world for quite a while now. What are some things that you think set other podcasts apart? Because there's a million of them out there. What draws you into a podcast?
It's individuality, to be honest with you. A lot of times people look at the names, like who the guests you have on it, but I mean, I've listened to a few. I think it's just the amount of content. It's really whatever you're feeling. Like it's like music, when you pop in a CD, usually, or you just listen to something on your phone like Spotify, you're aiming for what song you want to listen to. But then when you hit the playlist, like the mixtape button, and it mixes everything up, and you're hearing stuff you might not ever even thought to look up, but you end up enjoying.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I totally agree with you. When I jump on a podcast, if there's someone that I genuinely like if I relate to them, it's so much easier to listen to the podcast. And honestly, I will turn off the podcast in a minute if I don't like it. It doesn't take long for me to shut it off.
Well, that's a crazy part unless you got unless you don't have Spotify Premium, and then after you skip like 6 times, you're kinda stuck with that last one.
Yeah, you got to hope you land on a good one.
Yeah, it's like rolling the dice. I honestly think each podcast is so each like different and unique, but I think it's when you truly put like whatever you want and you don't try and listen to other people. Like a lot of people just try and monetize, and then they'll list off in the first 50 minutes like just nothing but advertisements. I'm like, "Oh my God. Can we just
I
get to the
know.
one thing I wanted to learn about?"
I know. I'm not going to buy your shit anyway. Nobody is.
Yeah, like I listened to one about like Assassin's Creed, and the guy was pronouncing all this stuff wrong, but he was like, "Look, I don't give a fuck. I'm pronouncing it wrong. This is how it's gonna go." And I'm like, I love that. Like
Nice.
it's all about not caring, because I feel like when you start to care truly about the audience, like not saying that they don't matter, but when you truly try, like if someone gives you a comment, you should try this. If you start making adjustments like that, you're gonna lose the original concept of why you started it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Jed and I actually ran into that at a certain point. I mentioned to you I work at a radio station. It's part of a huge conglomerate. And I don't want to mention which one just in case they get pissed off with me saying this. But my program director, he said, "Hey, I heard your podcast. It sounds good. I'm actually getting into advising people on podcasts, and I wanted to give you guys some suggestions." So he gave the suggestions. He told me what he thought. And I went and I talked to Jed with it, and we were both kind of like, okay, I guess that's a good thing to do to kind of like, make sure we're improving on the podcast. The next week when we went in, we were like, you know what? Fuck that. This is our podcast. Like, we don't have to convert it to please one guy who thinks he knows what he's talking about. So I totally agree. You got to do what you think is best for your show. And honestly, I think you got to do what makes you laugh the most, because other people are going to like that.
Well, people are going to enjoy the camaraderie. It's like when you watch a TV show or something, if they're just acting and they're not going full into character and not actually enjoying the moment, it can separate it. Like when you watch How I Met Your Mother or one of those types of shows, it shows like these guys actually have good camaraderie, especially when you watch the bloopers. It makes you like the show even more. But then you watch something like Law and Order, where it just seems like everyone's just going for a one liner, like, "I guess he's out of the question." And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it just tells like everybody's not really into the actual thing. Like, they're not bringing in the audience.
Right. It's disingenuous.
Well, this is actually one of the cool part about 90s shows and like older movies back in the day was it was something you and your parents could sit and watch, and both of you guys would enjoy the jokes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and how brilliant that those animators and those writers were able to make something that two totally different generations could enjoy at the exact same time.
They would do a low key adult joke that the kid would laugh at a different thing.
Yeah. And maybe even they would laugh at what they said, and the adult laughs for totally different reasons.
Like, you didn't even notice in one of the episodes of Looney Tunes that Daffy Duck was reading a magazine, and on the magazine it said "Play Duck."
Yeah. And
As
we
a
would never know what that is.
You wouldn't, and you wouldn't even know about the doctor on Rocco's Modern Life, Doctor Bendova.
No, was that his name?
Bendova.
Oh my God.
Dude, one of my favorite shows, Ed, Edd n Eddy, man. If you look, like I'm actually kind of doing a little bit of research here too. And one of the things that I just noticed, they have a sticky notes on Ed's wall, like what he has to do, like flush the toilet, walk, don't run, these types of things. One of the notes says, "Don't touch yourself." That Double D's parents left him.
No.
Oh my
That's
God.
amazing. Oh well, listen, Ed, or Double D, he's definitely he's a little creepy like that. So they were right to put that sticky note up. But that's hilarious. It's such a subtle little nuance you would never know unless you paused the show and looked.
And it's crazy because like Ed, Edd n Eddy had such good moments to it. Like I think everybody had a crush on Naz. I'm just saying.
Oh, listen, I don't want to get too creepy, but absolutely, Naz was super hot. She was like a cool blonde girl on the block. Everybody wanted Naz. Come on.
It's like watching The Lion King. You don't know what's going on with your body, but you know it's right.
Wait, what happened to you during The Lion King? Now you're freaking me
I
out.
don't want to talk about it. Little Dicky, the rapper, has a song about it. He goes, I was watching The Lion King. I got hard and I didn't know why, but it just felt right. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of true. You're young and impressionable. You start seeing a boy and girl lion go at it. Something happens. It might not.
Hey,
It might need to bring up some therapist questions, but it's something.
that's some primitive shit right there. I like that.
That's what I'm saying. I like the animalistic ways.
You know what? It's so funny because as a kid, I had crushes on like girls in cartoon shows, and in a way, I was kind of ashamed of it. I'm like, this is a cartoon. What is wrong with me?
I'm pretty sure everybody who's ever grown up has had a crush on somebody, like a celebrity. Like I'm pretty sure it's probably more normalized back in the day when cartoons weren't such a big thing. But I remember I was talking to my dad. He goes, "You know, I used to have the crush from the girl from the Jetsons." I'm like, "What?" Like that's weird. But then I'm sitting there like, I also had a crush on Starfire, so I can't really go and say anything.
You know what? I don't want to reveal a secret right now, but Jed told me who his crush is. Did he tell you that when he talked to you?
I think he did, but I totally forgot. What show was it off of? Because I bet I could name it.
He did mention. Okay, so you know it's Fred Flintstone.
He had a crush on Fred
Oh,
Flintstone.
Probably not, but I like to say he did.
I was about to say I could see him loving Wilma or something.
No, I don't know. He goes that way. I think he's more of a Fred guy.
I think he's more a Fred guy. Not even a Barney.
No, Barney's too short. I mean, who wants to be with a short guy, really?
Hey, I'm like 5'8", bro.
Oh, I'm 5'10". I'm not towering over you.
Wait, then how tall's Jed?
Oh my God, Jed.
Because you look like you're like 6 feet above him.
Well, that's. Do I really?
Yeah, in some of these photos, you guys look like on your Facebook page, you look like you're completely a lot taller than him.
Well, that's because Jed. Okay, so we're about the same height, but Jed is taller long ways than he is tall ways.
That's terrible.
Yeah, but I know he's going to hear this, and I can't wait to.
Badass biblical name.
Oh, Jedediah? Absolutely.
First of all, if I have 4 kids, I already know what I'm naming my 4 kids after.
Who?
Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, and Donatello.
Yes. See, you know what? You should just be a dick and name the last kid Frank. You know what I mean?
Then he's going to be left out. Or I should call him Fred and call him that internet kid from the 90s.
Wait, who was that? Freaky Fred?
No, Fred. Like, hey, it's Fred.
Oh, that's right. That annoying, like, high-pitched guy.
The one you hated his voice, but you listened to him all anyway.
You had to watch him.
See,
you know what?
That's where it was too easy. Where back in the day, it was hard to get on actually have a good animation. Nowadays, it seems like they can crack a simple fart joke and it works.
You know what? I totally agree. And if I can jump back to Ed, Edd n Eddy, I want to make a point about it. It's funny. My wife, she was homeschooled, and so they didn't watch a lot of cartoons growing up. And it wasn't until recently, we've been married for about a year now, I showed her Ed, Edd n Eddy. I'm like, this is the greatest cartoon. You're going to love it. It'll suck you in. We started watching it, and I had no idea how fucking violent that show is. I mean, it's basically the Three Stooges, except the stuff they're doing, like, everyone should be paralyzed and fucking dead. It's insane if you watch it back now.
Yeah, and the story is like they're apparently all in purgatory.
Do you believe that? Do you believe that theory?
I honestly don't, because I remember seeing Eddie get picked up by his father's, like all you saw was his father's arm come in and like take him.
Right.
I think it was definitely like the best way for kids to want to experience more of the community in their own like cul-de-sac. Like that's why they added Rolf in there, because Rolf was like, I am the son of a shepherd. Like that whole thing. It was supposed to create like a religious and like race barrier that was like, as a kid, you don't have that. They just saw him as Rolf. He was a little bit weird, and he had a goat named Victor.
Right. Well, and not to mention the fact that when you're a kid, like, who gives a shit about the parents? You're going out to hang with your friends. You're not thinking about your parents. That's kind of how they portrayed it in the show, you know?
Yeah, they should like. Well, I mean, honestly, it's like the back in the day, the parents worked, so it was like the kids like, hey, Nowadays, it seems like the parents spend more time at the house just complaining on Facebook.
Oh, don't even get me started on that, man. I've had to unfriend so many people for so many reasons on Facebook, and it's just like, don't annoy me, please. This is not the place to annoy me.
Did you think like? Did you see that on Netflix? They have Invader Zim that they brought back.
I watched it.
It was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
I totally agree. I thought they did it total justice, and on top of that, they had the exact same voice actors. They did it right.
You know why
Including-
they? You know how they did it right though.
how?
So every time an old show gets thrown back, it's remade, it's redone, and newer graphics. What they did with Invader Zim was they picked up where they left off.
Right.
That's why Rocco's Modern Life was good. They didn't redo it. They didn't try and reintroduce the characters. They just picked up where they left off. So then you've been waiting like 20 something years for this to come back, and then it finally comes back, and you're like, yes, we finally got it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, any true fan of the show would be like, what happened to Zim? What happened to Rocco? Are they still in space? That you're right. That is the beauty of it. They didn't fuck with the original story.
And not even only 90s cartoons being good, dude. There were some shows back in the 90s, like just regular live shows. I think me and you can both say Drake and Josh was a great fucking show.
Oh my God. I can't even tell you how much I love Drake and Josh and still love Drake and Josh.
I mean, Josh, for it's everything. Why do you keep repeating everything? I do it for emphasis. Emphasis.
Hug me, brother.
Like that shows like it doesn't matter if you're adopted or if your parents like you have a step sibling or something. You guys both like can connect on a level, and you still get into arguments just like normal family, and that helps teach kids like, it doesn't matter if you're blood or not. You can still relate. You can still be a family.
Right. And you can still hate your shitty little sister.
Exactly, because all little siblings are jerks.
Right. Oh, listen, if my brother hears this, I just want him to know that he was the most annoying little motherfucker. No, I'm just kidding.
I want to apologize to my brother out there for basically breaking all of his toys because I was the younger one.
Oh, you were the younger one?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta go. I can't talk to you right now.
It's one, dude. I broke my mom's favorite video game. I feel so bad about it now. She used to love Machine Hunter.
Yeah.
And I was a little kid, and I would see like, when they get the reflection off the sun on the disc, it would create like a rainbow on the wall. So
Right.
I was holding the disc, and I started bending it and realizing the more I bend it, the rainbow got bigger. And then suddenly I bent it a little too far and it snapped in half. And I've been trying to get this game downloaded anything, anywhere, just so she'll be able to play again. And she's like, you ruined it for me. I'm like, great.
She's like, I don't love you anymore, son.
But like, I think the best parts was I go to the grocery store, my mom would give you that briefing before you go in the grocery store. Like, don't hit me in the back of the heel with that shopping cart at all, or that's it. You're gone. And she would like say, go pick something out of the dollar store. You used to go and grab like a yo-yo or something, and the most simplest toys, but they seemed like they kept your mind occupied the longest. I mean, do you remember the candy cigarettes?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I still buy candy cigarettes to this day.
The chalk stuff. Nobody knows what that is really anymore. Kids are like, what? Like they're completely oblivious. I think they lost the connection like that. Those shows kind of taught, like those video games, Angry Beavers, and like especially Courage the Cowardly Dog, one of my all-time favorites, man. Just on the concept of that show taught you life lessons, and it scared the shit out of you too.
Yeah. And you know what? That you're so right. It was like Courage was the little bitch inside of all of us. Some bad shit happens, some scary shit happens, and he does not want to deal with any of it, but he has to because it's his family and he loves his family.
It shows what you will do even for your family, even though the dad or the farmer, Eustace tortures them all the time. I think the way they did it though, like the weirdest things though, like the characters looked all really like crackhead goofy. But like that shows the reason why I'm scared to use the vacuum, because I think I'm going to get sucked into it, and it's like a small world in the vacuum.
That could still happen. I don't want to freak you out, but that's a possibility.
And the reason why I stay away from graveyards, the fact that return the slab.
Yes, return the slab.
That kept me away from a Ouija board, man. I'm telling you.
Oh, but for good reason too.
And I can't
but tell me
believe
this.
they sell them in freaking Toys R Us too.
Oh, you know what? I honestly, I'm not for lots of regulations and stuff. That shit should be illegal. It's going to open another portal, and I don't want to be around for that. I can't support it.
The kids
But I'll tell you what, man. Tell me this. Courage had he had two things he would say. He had two catchphrases. One was when he would just fucking scream his head off and go crazy. Two is when he would go, the things I do for love. And I thought that was the best freaking thing ever, because it was right before he was about to do that crazy shit to go save Muriel. He'd say, the things I do for love. And that was like, you knew he was about to go do some cool shit. I thought that was awesome.
I used to really like the character Muriel until they had the baby episode where she was a kid. And
I know.
I want macaroni and cheese. And then he go and like cooked for like 5 minutes and then comes back and he's like, I don't want macaroni and cheese, or more macaroni, less cheese, and kept doing it for like, I mean, that was a straight 20-minute thing. And I swear to God, I was like, if a kid ever did that to me, I'm throwing the kid out the window.
Well, you know what? I'm reporting you to the police. You will never have children. I'm sorry. I have to do it, my friend.
Can I just put him in the basement then?
Yeah, that works too.
All right, cool. It was one of those like moments though, like that show had some crazy stuff to it, like the bank robbing duck, and then like, you know, Courage, whenever he got hit, he go ha, 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 and do like that crazy ass laugh, and you're like, what is going on?
His fucking brain turned to mush. Oh, how about when he'd want to figure something out and he'd go talk to the computer, and the computer was like some British guy.
That's showing where we're going to technology, man. Artificial intelligence.
Oh, Courage the Cowardly Dog did it first.
Yeah, I mean, does that mean we're going to have a giant eel in the bathtub that starts speaking amazing life wisdom?
God, I really hope so. If not, I don't want to be around for it.
I'll never forget when he went into the bathroom and in the bathtub was just this giant eel with like hallucinogenic eyes and was just like, life's all about its imperfections, Courage. You're extraordinary just as you are. And he's like, well, thank you. And then I'm sitting in my head like, what just happened?
You're like, is Courage on acid this episode?
That's probably what it was. I mean, you have to think, if any show had a set stage, like theory behind it, where they're in purgatory, it was Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yep. I would totally agree with that.
They were in literally the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And creepy stuff happens in nowhere.
Exactly. We just re-announced the theme song. That was all.
Well, you know, it is up to Courage to save his new home.
Oh my God, so many drops from the theme.
I know. I'm a drop whore. That's just kind of how I am.
It's better than being a plat or a promotion whore where you just go off and start promoting everything you own.
Oh, I did want to mention I am on the 90s Guys podcast. You can catch that on SoundCloud and YouTube. And
my virgin ears. For a price of $2.99, you can buy 40,000 shirts for the price of one. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Give me that message.
I had an episode where a guy, he first came on the podcast and started promoting his stuff. And I looked and he only had like 5 views on his podcast. And I'm like, this guy's already got merch. And I was just thinking, I'm so jealous because I don't even have merch.
You know what? And we do have merch, but ours isn't so much of a self-serving thing. It's more of like, listen, we got to sell some shit because having a podcast has some cost to it. I mean, you know, we have to pay for our RSS feed, you know, studio time and all that stuff. But I know what you mean. It's a little self-serving to have merch before you actually have a fan base.
Honestly, if they have the drive to do it, I suggest people just go ahead and do it. Like, make it whatever you want it to be. I mean, so many times nowadays, the reason why you can fall in love with the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, you always look back at those moments or those good times or those good eras is because the way we're going nowadays, man, it's not the best. We're kind of disconnected. I mean, where we have technology that might connect us, like how me and you are talking, but it's not real connectivity. Like, you don't get to sit and shoot the shit anymore. I mean, half the time you walk into your door, you're so depressed that you just want to go inside and watch Netflix all day. It's just hard to even get yourself out of the house to do anything.
Right. No, see, I agree. And that's why, getting to think about the 90s, reminisce about it, it's the best we have. We're never going to get back to that point. At least I don't think. I think we're too far gone with technology. So we might as well just think back on the good old days and remember it fondly. You know what I mean?
This is why our grandparents, we always thought it was weird. They would look at old photos of themselves. Like, it's because they missed that time. That was a moment in their life where they truly were happy. And like nowadays, it's like they know, like, especially like if it's a grandmom or something, her looks are not the same, and they kind of hold on to that. It's like with Pam Anderson when she was in Baywatch. Okay. She aged and she was doing major plastic surgery to kind of keep herself like how she used to look. And she doesn't understand that's a fleeting talent to look,
Right.
be based on your looks.
Yeah. And not to mention, you see these people now, the plastic surgery has ruined them. They would have looked, I think, a million times better without that. They just look fake and, I don't know, gross, really.
I think it's just like we choose to model ourselves off stuff that, like back in the day, we used to model ourselves off like Cow and Chicken, Dexter's Laboratory, and like all these like created things. Now we're modeling ourselves off of like news and media. We just turned immediately to like celebrities and all these things instead of going into the aspect of like sometimes you need that fantasy. Sometimes you need to look up to Captain Planet.
Right. And you know what? On top of that, like back in the day, we had TV and VHS and the radio, and that was practically it for our content. Now it's like you can go on YouTube, you can go on your Roku, you can go on your iPad, your iWatch, or whatever it is. It was so refreshing just knowing, like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch TV for like 5 hours and go to bed. Now I come home and like there's so much to do. Honestly, I have been overwhelmed with like, well, I really want to watch this on Netflix, but I got to make sure that I watch this on Hulu. Like it's kind of stressful in a way.
And also the fact that you could not skip over an advertisement. You had to sit there and watch the damn commercial.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that back in the day, the commercials were so much better. They were actually somewhat entertaining.
What do you mean? Like which commercials? The ones that involved the superstar? Like you would pour open a box of cereal, and the reason why I always thought Ray Lewis was going to come out of my Frosted Flakes, and he never did.
God, that's frightening, actually, thinking about that. Yes, in a way, but like there's commercials that I could recite to you fully right now that were incredible. And I have friends, when I see them, sometimes I'll mention, I'll be like, hey, what's it called? Oh, Education Connection was a commercial as a kid it was basically a chick singing a song. And I kid you not, I think that she's possibly one of the best lyricists that has ever existed. I mean, it's so freaking catchy. It's stuck in my head for all of time. And I can't explain why.
Do you remember before, like when you used to just get a computer in the house, do you remember this game called RuneScape?
Oh, you know what? I'm terrible. I did not play RuneScape as a kid.
Oh my God.
I got as far as like chopping up wood, and I was like, "This is boring."
This is tedious.
Yeah.
All right, then let me give you another game. War of the Monsters.
War of the Monsters?
Dude, I'm telling you,
No.
if you look this up on your phone right now or look it up on a computer right now, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. It had a robot up front. It had a gorilla in the back. I mean, a gorilla they were fighting. You get to play. Dude, that game, I'm telling you, man, I'm about to pull it up here and show it to you.
I'm looking for it right now.
It was an old PlayStation. It was an old PlayStation game. It was like Destroy All Humans, kind of.
I didn't play this one, but it looks freaking amazing.
What? You never played War of the Monsters?
No, I'm a loser, man. This looks really cool.
Are you looking at your phone screen right now?
No, I'm on my laptop.
Look at the phone screen right now. Do you see it?
I see one of the loading things. I see it.
That game.
Nice. Yes, I think that's awesome. It looks insane.
Oh my God, I can't believe you never played that, dude. This was back in the day when the world worked and we had those video stores you used to go to rent a game.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you serious?
No, I'm kidding. I definitely remember.
Oh my God, I was about to cry.
Don't cry. It's okay.
I was about to say, because like you used to go to Blockbuster and used to pick out a movie. You used to have to pay this guy that was covered in acne and just be like, excuse me, I want this game. And he'd sit there and give you a list of recommendations that you did not give two shits about.
Right.
You were like,
Well,
can
and how
I
about
just get the game?
yeah? And also, don't hassle me because I owe you like 15 cents on a late fee. Like, dude, if your company's that hard up, I'll toss you $1. It's okay.
It was literally like if you were trying to get like a library book and you were late, like they would literally be like, you already have 3 books checked out. Like, does it matter? Like, who's reading
Yeah,
those books anyway?
yeah, I know. Like, you only have 30 copies sitting on the counter right now.
You
But
know this. You know the story behind Fresh Prince?
no.
So before Will Smith actually got the role, they actually told him like, "What do you want to be called on the show?" And just so to let you know, whatever you choose as your name, people are going to remember for the rest of your life. Like you're going to be called that the rest of your life. And he chose Will Smith.
Oh, that's so smart.
Like you don't know Carlton as Alfonso, even though that's his real name.
Yeah. Unless you're a super fan like me, and I'm a big Alfonso. Was it Roberto Ribeiro? See, actually, I don't really know his name.
So wait a minute. If you were you actually a fan of the Fresh Prince?
Oh, I can tell you that not only have I seen every single episode of The Fresh Prince, probably 10 times over, I own it on DVD.
Oh, dude, let me tell you. So when they replaced the mom, how bad did that mess you up?
Oh, oh, I hated it. I'm like, who? I'm like, who is this woman? She's an imposter. What is she doing in the home?
That show created realism, dude. Let me tell you something. Like that show had so many good life lessons taught into it. Like the dad that was Will Smith's dad just finally came in and he was like, "Sorry, I'm not going to make it." He's like, "But you said you would." And then he walked out and then Will Smith gives like that emotional stance like, "I've been going without him my whole life. I go even more without him. I don't need him. I want to go to college because of him." And then the uncle and him hug and then you find out later that was an actual reaction, like an actor to another actor.
Right.
And, like, you hear that type of stuff, dude, changes your mind about shows. Like, they had so much more character nowadays, and it's just the same Walking Dead horse shit over and over again. I'm like, I know they're gonna kill zombies in this, and I know there's gonna be something that's gonna be in another town, so why don't you just do it? Just stop leading me up to it.
Right. And you know what? Think about all the production that goes into The Walking Dead or any of those shows. And then think of the production that went into The Fresh Prince. It was like on a cheesy, shitty set. And it was just really good actors and a really good script. And it was hilarious and it was emotional. And it was like, multifaceted. It was incredible. I totally know what you're saying with that.
What's one thing you really hated about the '90s?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Like, either it could be a
Um,
show, it could be a movie, it could be a food.
One thing I really hated about the '90s. Oh, it's so tough because it was just so perfect. I mean, if I'm being honest, I hated getting beat up. like
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Pretty sure we all did.
I was on a street with a bunch of kids on it. There was maybe like 15 different kids, and of course, the older kids always fucking beat up on us. They treat us like crap, and we even had a couple parents that were really weird. We had one parent, this guy. For some reason, he was such a grouch. He would go around calling us idiots and morons and stupid and stuff like that. So, I mean, that kind of stuff from my childhood, I really did not like. But like you said, that's everybody that has that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure kids nowadays are never gonna know what it was like to be chased with a stick that had poop on the end of it.
Oh, you had the poop stick too?
God, dude, I'm telling you, man, they were everywhere.
You know
Where
what?
did
Let's bring it
who's
back,
not
Robbie.
cleaning up their dog shit? Who is that savage? Little Jimmy wouldn't have poop on a stick if some guy would have just picked up his dog's poop.
You know what, Robbie? Me and you, we're bringing it back. How about that?
Or we
I
gonna start
like the poop stick.
or even lighting it on your neighbor's porch.
Oh, I know. That was incredible. And you know what? It's funny because that's a funny prank, but it's also arson if you think about it.
You know what a
Like,
really funny prank was that they took it a little too far was the back door or ding dong ditch.
yes.
Dude, that was a fun game. That was like something as a kid I loved to do. But people would get so insane about it. They would open up the door and they call the cops and the cops would be looking for you. Like, what is going on?
I
I,
know.
I
And you
made
know
him
what?
get up from the couch for 5 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry that my fat, sad sack of a husband couldn't get up and go, answer the door. It's like, you know what? No offense. You probably should walk to the door about 1,000 times a day, and then maybe you could fit in your pants.
Dude, the best part I think about being a kid was the fact that you could literally eat anything and nothing would even affect your body at all.
Oh, dude, you're preaching the choir. It,
Getting a nice peanut butter and jelly sandwich with like fluff on it, dude.
oh, yeah.
Murdering that with, like, a soda, and, like, if I did that now, I would be, like, next thing you know, my back's hurting, and I'm, like I might be 20 years old, but it's, like, shows when, like, I've been eating clean for so long that if I try and eat something dirty, it's, like, really, really bad for my body. I'm, like, in pain for, like, 4 days afterwards.
Oh, you know what? It doesn't get any easier. Like, I'm 25 now, and I can tell you my back freaking hurts, my neck hurts. I'm being honest with you. I don't think that I'm gonna be able to live past 30. I'm gonna be in way too much pain. They're gonna have to put me out.
They're gonna have to get some stem cells off some baby and inject it into you.
I'm fine with that. I'm really anti-baby.
As long as the baby comes from an elite race.
It needs to come. It needs to come from an elite race, which essentially is my race because I'm a major racist. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my god. No, it's it
I'm
I
outing myself on your podcast.
it's good, be open, be real. We don't want the hiding conversations.
I wouldn't do it to you.
It's crazy because like, Ben& and Jerry's, like, that food, if I ate, like, as much as I did back then, I would kill a pint in one sitting without even knowing. You're just eating Ben& and Jerry's ice cream or a bag of Doritos. Like, when you were a kid and you got Doritos, it wasn't pour 'em in a bowl. It was you ate the bag.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And you know what? If you didn't eat the entire bag, you're a weirdo. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah, I never understood it, and my grandma put it in the best of terms. She would get, like, a giant, like, she would get, like, a small little bowl, and she would grab a giant bag of salt and vinegar chips, and she would pour it in the bowl, and, like, only, like, 20 chips were in the bowl, and she would make it last for hours, just sitting there putting one chip in her mouth and sucking on it, and actually, she taught me because I had really bad ADHD, and I still kinda do, but she was like, "It's good sometimes to slow down." And it put it in the best of terms. Like, anything I did, like, when I was going too fast or rushing something and I felt like I was going a little bit too quick, wasn't actually enjoying the moment, like, she was like, "Just slow it down." And I did.
Yeah.
And it was like when you had a snow day, when you had these types of things, enjoy the day. You know, you can sit inside and play video games all day, that's cool, but how many kids nowadays are gonna know what it's like to go outside and actually roll up a snowman? Like, actually build one?
Yeah. And not like they used to. You're totally right. You know what? That's part of growing up too. Is you learn. Excuse me. You learn these different like tips about life. Like I've learned, like in the mornings, I'll be going to work, and every time I get to a red light, I look at my phone. I gotta check what's on Facebook or email, whatever it is. I'm learning like put down the phone. You can look at lunchtime. Just enjoy that. It's like a beautiful morning. Look around, see what's happening. It definitely gives you a happier life.
I realize I turned into my grandfather in this podcast when I keep looking back at all the good times. You don't know how it used to be. And I realize that's what he was saying, for me when I was like a little kid, like, we're in the best time. And he's like, you don't know what it used to be like to go outside and have to fight for your food. I'm like, what?
Oh, you're like, Grandpa, trust me, that was not fun. I don't know what you're remembering.
Spears anymore. We have regular items like going to the grocery store and getting whatever we want.
How old is your grandpa? Like 1,000?
No, but he acts like it. But he has the kid mentality, man. Like, I see him, like, I have like a little stepsister, and he literally colors and does all this stuff. And I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, you're an adult. And he just goes, sometimes you got to release the inner kid. Like, he builds puzzles. He hides candy in our house.
Nice.
My grandmom does not let him eat candy, and she's kind of like hunched over so she can't reach like the top items in the drawer, or top items in like the shelf and stuff. So we have all these pots and pans that hang for decoration. He
Mhm.
grabs Reese Pieces and he tapes them inside of the pots and pans.
What?
Dude, I was always like, I would go and cook up like some soup or something. Next thing I know, I'm like, why is there Reese Pieces inside of this pan? And he'll
Why does it smell like burning plastic?
Exactly. And then, like, he always sits in his recliner and watches cowboy movies. And I'm like, I'm sitting there watching him with him, and I'm wondering what he's snacking on. I'm like, what are you doing? He just opens up this drawer, and under this drawer, he has magazines that are like taped down to the thing. So if you just open it up, it's not going to slide, but it's enough to where under it is bags and bags of candy.
Oh, this man's a genius.
Dude, he puts it in he grabs the little small Swedish fish, and they have the old bigger TV, so it kind of comes with a giant ass remote,
Right?
and tapes it under the battery clip.
No.
Yeah, he's that much of a savage. And she knows he does it, but he's just like, and he has his own personal shed in the backyard. So he just goes out there. He's like, I'm going to go work on the lawnmower. He'll pull the lawnmower out. It'll just sit there. And then he'll be inside the shed with the freezer in there. He's got frozen Halloween candy and everything.
Okay, now you're telling me how great your grandpa is. When will he be appearing on your podcast? Because I'm going to listen.
I've tried so many times. The hardest part is I can't podcast with my own family.
Why is that?
I don't know. I like just talking to them. They don't take it seriously. Like they don't try and engage in any conversation. Like my brother, for example, he owns a popular reggae band. Like everybody in my family's in 2 to 3 bands. I'm the only one that didn't follow the line, but they'll be like, you know me. I'm like, I know you. I know you. I know. I want to know like what like better things about you. And I also want people to know about you. And they're like, oh, well, you just tell them. And then they'll walk away. I'm like, why?
What? That's boring.
I was trying to get my dad on the podcast too.
Oh, he'd be a great guest.
He wants to do it, but he lives kind of a couple hours away. So we're planning a day to do it down the line. You're going to see the out of the blank father on here.
Yes, we've heard the son. It's time for the father to come on.
I'm going to ask him so many questions like, why did you break my Rock Band drum set?
Oh, okay. Let me guess. He was hitting the edges, not the inside.
He's
right?
an actual drummer.
Yeah.
And so he breaks his drumsticks every concert or every gig he does. So he started playing it like it was a real drum set. And then he hits this solo and he hits it so hard, the thing cracked off and like snapped in half. And he's like, I'll buy you another one. I was like,
And it never happened, right?
no. It was literally the day after I got it. It was the day after Christmas.
Oh, he was the Grinch that stole Christmas from you.
Oh, dude, me and him had moments like he'd come home from DJing at 3:00 in the morning. I would just sit on the couch and then we're just watching like Martin, or we're watching like My Wife and Kids, like right downstairs. Like he's like, shouldn't you be in bed? I'm like, I won't tell anybody if you don't tell anybody.
He's like, all right, good deal.
What do you want, some Frosted Flakes or something? I'm like, yeah. So we'd just be sitting there. Like he cooked breakfast for dinner, which is like every kid's dream.
Nice. This sounds like a good man. I'm liking him.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's moments that you look back upon, and this is what I really want to kind of like try and show the younger generations, like my little family members and stuff. I try and show them like, you don't want to get nostalgia off your phone.
Right.
You want to get nostalgia and memories with your family that you're with. And I mean, I'm at fault for doing it too, but it's like the average family used to have dinner 7 nights a week. Now they're only having it maybe 3 or 2 times.
Right. If they're even having it.
Like I remember being at the dinner table and convincing my parents to let me curse.
No.
I said that so many kids were cursing at me in school. It's not fair. I couldn't say anything. Can you let me say the word? And they only told me I could not say the one word, you're not supposed to say. So they were like, you know what word, and you're not going to make me say it either. And
I'm confused. What?
It was
which word?
It's a derogatory racial term that you can't use.
Oh my God. Are you talking about cracker?
Yes, cracker. Swinger, swagger, all those types of words. No,
right.
Like my brother looked at me. He was like, "Did you just convince our parents to let you curse?" And I was like, "I just did that."
That's impressive, man. I mean, you might need to forget this whole podcast thing. Go be a lawyer.
I was going to be a salesman.
Oh, wow.
I was going to sell people false dreams of bringing back old cartoon shows.
Oh, you know what? If you ever do that, I will hunt you down. Please don't ruin don't hurt us like that.
Okay, Liam Neeson, I will fight you, and I will
kill you.
You won't pay that Blockbuster DVD overpayment.
After all these years, it's $10,000 in back payments.
I don't have $10,000. Well, like, you don't have a life.
Okay, so I got to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So you had my partner, Jedediah, on this show. What is something that you learned about Jedediah that maybe shocked you or that intrigued you?
I learned that it doesn't matter really your age. Like same thing I learned with my grandfather. It doesn't matter your age. You can still have a wacky and funny personality. Like so much times as a kid, we were scared to grow up and turn into adults. And then you find out like when you're an adult, the only thing that adds on is bills.
Right.
You
Oh
don't
man.
lose that child aspect. Like talking to him was so like it was so much fun because we were just going off on random different things and like cracking jokes. And it shows like a sense of like humbleness a little bit too in a way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And listen, it's not just because of his mental deficiency that he's actually a 65-year-old man and he sounds like a 30-year-old guy. It's just the fact that he's a child at heart, and that's one of the reasons I love
Yeah, I mean it's actually probably one of the best parts I like about your podcast is you're 24 years old and he's 65.
him. I know it's great, and he looks great for 65.
Yeah, I don't feel like he's actually 65 to be honest with you.
All right, I think he's mid-30s, but
He's
that's
mid
beside the point.
30s?
Yeah, what did you think?
Oh my God. Jed.
What did you think? You got
Jed, you're a good guy, but let's get you stem cells or something. We got to do some eugenic.
How old did you think? I need a number.
Don't be 40s, 45.
Okay. Well, it's not too far
I'm gonna
off.
take a random shot in the dark and say he's 38.
I think he's 34.
34.
It's you know what it is? It's the beard though.
Yeah, it is
He's-
the beard.
He has a multicolored beard. His mustache, I think, is kind of brown. Half his beard is like grayish, and then the other half is like pure white, like snow.
But you understand that's the cool originality in your guys' podcast that you have this camaraderie. Like he knows you, like he used to work with your parents and be friends with your parents. And next thing you know, like he's friends with you. And he used to just see this kid that used to just draw all the time. Like he was talking about that. Like it
Yeah.
shows that you guys can connect on such a level too and bring that in on your podcast. Like people can sense that. And then they go and look who you guys actually are. And they see this like this gap in years, but it's like you guys are on the same mentality length.
Yeah. And you know what? That's one of the reasons Jed and I have always been good friends is because we relate on the exact same level. And it's funny because that's one of the feedbacks we've gotten from our podcast is they're like, you guys have a really good rapport. And our response is, well, we've been friends for, I think it's been 10 years now. It's just like you said, I know him, he knows me, which also makes for some hilarious content because I know what stuff to bring up to bother him, what stuff to bring up to make him laugh, what stuff to bring up, that makes him uncomfortable. It's perfect. It makes for a really funny conversation.
It definitely does, dude. It helps bring the audience in a way too, which I find is like the key because a lot of times you can tell like when a show or a movie or something like the casts aren't getting along and they're just faking it. It makes it kind of uncomfortable to kind of watch in a way.
Yeah, and yeah, no one wants to sit through something they don't think is genuine. You know.
That's why I tell people like be authentic. Curse on here if you want. Act a fool if you want to act a fool. I want to have a real conversation with you where you don't feel like you're living in this fake, false reality that we choose to act in society today. We walk around like we're wearing masks, man.
Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable. Like I like the way I act on this podcast is how I act in real life. Like I crack a fart joke downstairs and my family just looks at me like, are you an idiot? And I'm like, nah, I'm just trying to crack humor because I think life is filled with too much seriousness all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know what? I got to pay you a compliment. I pretty much halfway through this podcast, maybe even sooner, I forgot we were doing a podcast, and I felt like I was talking on the phone with a friend. It's been very natural, and it's hard to do.
Oh my God, I have a friend.
No. I don't get ahead of yourself now.
Oh,
Okay.
I still have to go on the roof and jump off.
No. I'll be your friend.
Yes, I guilted you into it.
No, and not only are we gonna be friends, but Jed and I talked about it. I don't know if he mentioned it, but we got to have you on our podcast if you have time.
Dude, whenever, just shoot me a message. I've helped, I mean, not helped, but I've been on podcasts. I've helped people. I tell people we're all experiencing the same life right now in different ways. I mean, we all share this earth together. And I've said it multiple times in the podcast. I hate sounding like a broken record, but the weirdest thing people always say about my podcast is I don't know like what you guys focus on. And I'm like, because we just shoot the shit. And I tell them it's like a sunrise or a sunset. This podcast isn't my podcast. It's our podcast. This episode you're in right now is your episode. It's both of ours. We can do whatever we want. We can say whatever we want. We can, express yourself, man, because we're lacking in a world of creativity and expression nowadays. It seems like it's so much easier to be the Jim that works the 9 to 5. And sadly, I'm not a Jim that works the 9 to 5.
Right. I want to ask you, what do you do for a living?
I work at a hotel.
Oh, okay.
I'm a houseman, so I basically clean up all the trash from the housekeepers and take all the crap from them. But it just shows like I work in all Latino staff. Basically, I'm the only white guy. So like when people talk about race and they talk about these things, I'm like, we're all just people. I've been a minority practically my whole life, isolation kind of, and it's like I've never felt like, I don't know, I've never really felt out of place around people that don't look like me. I've always felt comfortable because I realized when I did feel out of place, that was something inside of myself I needed to fix.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes it's not always even your fault. If you grew up in an area that didn't have different races and different nationalities, it can be shocking, like when you get to school and you're around people that aren't like you. But it's just about, my whole thing is, I never judge anyone by their race. I judge people by themselves. And listen, there's white people that are assholes. There's black people that are assholes. My cat is an asshole.
Cats just don't like people.
Well, no, you can't put that blanket statement, because I'll be honest with you. I have some amazing cats. And I don't know if you've gotten this point in the podcast. I am a major cat person, like to a freakish level, probably.
So that's what's wrong with you. I couldn't narrow it down. Well,
it was something.
The only thing with cats is they like in Egypt, they're supposed to guard like sarcophaguses. They're supposed to be the keepers, like the gates of of like hell. Basically, they guard the gates. So like spirits, like that's why they always had cat omens everywhere, and everyone had like a cat in their sarcophagus or had near their tomb, because it's supposed to keep away the demons and spirits, because they're the guardians of like the hell, basically. And it's like how you had Cerberus the hellhound. Well, that's what cats were. They were seen as these things that would block these spirits, and that's what they believed. But the aspect is, cats, they don't really give a shit if you're there or not. Like they'll walk over to you like, yes, you can pet me. And they give you that fancy thing. And it's like, all right, well, guess who's not getting their fancy feast today?
You fancy little bitch.
Exactly.
No fancy feast. You know what, though? It's funny. I think I got extremely lucky, because when I was a kid growing up, I had 3 cats in the house. And they were that way. They were dicks. They didn't care about us, essentially. I mean, they did, but, they weren't very emotional. I have 4 cats right now. And I can honestly say that 2 out of those 4 cats are really emotional, sweet. Actually, okay, I gotta say 3 out of those 4 cats are really sweet and emotional. And I think they actually care if my wife and I are home or not. I mean, we'll leave and we'll come back, and you can tell they've missed us. I don't know. That's just me.
I think that's true. I think it's just like people. Like you said, you can be a white racist, you can be a black racist. It's just people are racist. We just use a stereotype because it's so easy to label something nowadays. I mean, It's so easy to label Surge as probably the worst energy drink out there. But let me tell you something. That made my pee change different colors.
Oh, it did it to you too?
It went black, and then it was like something's probably really internally wrong.
Did a demon come out?
No, but I drank more Surge right afterwards, and I was pumped.
Oh, hey, you know what? Who cares about the black pee? You are hyped.
You are. I'm relevant. I'm on that spiritual level. You got to get on my level first of all.
You know what? I don't drink any energy drink except for one, and I have to tell you what it is, and you have to go get it, because I think it's just incredible. It's called Bing.
All right,
not
I drink
Bang.
Bang's Wait, you talking about Bing?
I'm not Bang. This is Bing. And it's an all-natural energy drink they make with Bing cherries, and you haven't lived until you've chugged a Bing.
I've never heard of this, but I feel like it's like Coke when they just switch the flavor, or they change it up. They change the original recipe. I'm like, you just told people you changed the original recipe.
Right.
Like, I know
Well,
people that used to work at fast food restaurants, and they would be like, someone would order a Diet Coke, but they'd be a jerk the whole entire time, like, just be ignorant and kind of like a and they'd be like, "I just give them regular Coke." I'm like, "You're a passive aggressive monster."
you're like, I will never order food from you, you freaking asshole.
That's what I bring up to the point of my buddy who's vegan. We go out to a restaurant and he's waiting like 45 minutes, like trying to figure out, like, is this cooked near any meat? It can't be cooked near any meat. I'm like, dude, if I was a chef and I figured out how to take your salad to the back, I would just cook it right next to a nice steak and like actually throw the steak on the salad and take it off.
You would use the steak sauce as the salad dressing.
This is why I don't work at a restaurant.
If you ever apply, I'm going to make sure the authorities get in contact with you. I'm
I
worried
just
about
want to work at Domino's because I've podcasted with people that are like pizza delivery people, and they're like, the weirdest thing is when you go at like 2 o'clock in the morning and it's some drunk dude, like he's just asking what's on the menu, and it's like pizza, wings, all this, and they're like, "Can I get a McDouble?" You're like, "This isn't McDonald's. This is literally Pizza Hut. You're ordering pizza."
I believe that.
And kids won't know nowadays because they have Uber Eats.
You're right. Oh, dude, back in the day, we had to get on our bikes and ride about 15 to 20 minutes up to our local grocery store, get all the groceries we wanted, all the junk food, and then ride back with freaking bags hanging off of our handles.
You wanna know how hard it was to try and decided what you wanted when you went to a buddy's house and your parents gave you $20 and you were ordering pizza that night?
Oh,
That is the
impossible.
hardest decision of your life. You're like, "Which pizza restaurant are we ordering from? How much are we gonna have to tip?" All this types of like, those were moments though, like, but now, like, my little cousin's like, "Yeah, I got Chinese food, and then my buddy, he's gonna get a McDouble." I'm like, "How are you guys making separate calls?" "No, we're Uber eating." I'm like, "What?"
Huh? You're like, aren't you 12?
It's like when Domino's and Pizza Hut made that delivery, like, you can order online option.
Hmm.
That was crazy because you were like, you could just type in a bunch of weird stuff. It gave you a limitless menu. Instead of telling the person, I want pineapple, sausage, cheese, I just start going off like a list of 50 toppings and then hearing them go, that'll be 30 something dollars for one pizza. And then you're like, oh, hold on a second. And then you just hung up and called a different place trying to get a lower price.
Yeah, and because you were embarrassed. You're like, I don't have $30.
And then you open up the door and you're just like handing him the money. He's like, what about tip? And I'm like, what's tip? And just shut the door.
And you shut the door, and he like has his hand like through, and you break all of his fingers off.
Just screams, ah!
It's just, you know what? This has happened to both of us. I can tell.
I'm telling you, man, the anxiety I used to get when the guy used to come up and I had to go open the door to give him money to get the food. I was like, I have to do this. This is how we're all going to survive. Nobody's home. Me and him are going to have to eat some pizza. Honestly, I invited the pizza guy into my house one time. It was probably a bad move, but I did it. And he was actually really cool.
He went in your house?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I'm kind of busy." I'm like, "Dude, why don't you just sit in here and enjoy a slice of pizza? It's 3 o'clock in the morning and you look really, really tired." And he's like, "All right." He ended up just coming in. We're shooting the shit. Like I'm drinking a Monster Energy drink, getting ready to go back upstairs to play Halo, and we're just talking. Like he was the coolest dude too. And I realized now he could probably have murdered me, but it's not like back in the day where your parents used to warn you about getting into a car with a stranger that has candy. No, now we Uber and they have candy and we have to give them a 5-star rating.
Right. And you know what? I actually was an Uber driver for a while, so I can relate to the struggle of wanting that 5-star rating so bad.
You wanted people to come. You know, they have an app where it lets you poop in other people's homes.
What?
It's like
Are you
Uber,
serious?
but it's for taking dumps. Like people have their toilet open for you. Like you can use our guest bathroom and rate the stars on it. It's like, okay.
Dude, I think I might do that. And my house only has one bathroom in it, so my wife's probably going to be really pissed.
Just pick look, I have to drive dude, I remember the times where I had, like, all my bathrooms in my house were filled up, and I had to literally drive my car to a store at, like, 2 o'clock in the morning to use the bathroom.
See, you know what? You're a city boy. You just what you're supposed to do is you go and get it like one of those like plastic bags from the grocery store. you go outside and you do what you got to do, man. I don't want to
Why
get too
would I do
graphic.
that if they have a perfectly good bathroom in Walmart? And then you look like an asshole when you just walk in there and then you're like, I have to buy something now. I just wrecked that toilet.
Yeah, you go buy baby wipes and you walk right in the bathroom.
I swear to God, every time I go to Walmart, there's literally a dude in there going to the bathroom and taking a monstrous crap.
I know, and see, that's why I will not poop at Walmart because I don't want to hear someone else taking a poop, and I don't want anyone else hearing me taking a poop.
Well, it's like the anxiety you got in school when you used to go into the bathroom stall and then somebody be like, oh, someone's taking a poop. It's like, yeah, I am.
You ever heard of it? It's real interesting. I know.
I think that was an awkward part in school too that I don't miss was the urinals.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you'd always get it when it was empty, and then some savage kid would just walk in and go right beside you. And you're like, dude, you couldn't skip one over.
Right. Or how about when the kid would come in and he'd walk to the urinal and then he'd drop his pants to the ground. And then you would be like, excuse me, I don't need to see your ass just because you're at the urinal, dude.
That also brings up the major question why people wipe their ass differently.
That brought that question up.
Like front to back, side to side. What do? Do you just go and take a shower?
It depends on what I'm gonna do. If I'm going to work, yeah, I'm gonna take a shower because I cannot sit at my desk all day with, like squirming. But I'm trying to even think how I do it. I'm a front to back kind of guy.
Okay, that makes sense. But I mean, there's so many. I don't know. I think it's different for everyone. It's like when you have different colored eyes.
Yeah.
It's just everyone wipes their ass differently.
Okay, how do you do it?
Honestly, it's whatever I'm feeling after the crap. Sometimes it's like it's so bad. It's like I just grab a ball of toilet paper and just start cramming it up there.
No, you're
Dude,
telling me that
I know a savage dude that grabs toilet paper, wraps it around his hand like an oven mitt, and just goes and
Oh,
back and forth and back and forth and back and forth
oh,
until it's just like, and then he keeps doing that until there's no more. I'm like, you just wasted a roll of toilet paper wiping your ass.
oh my God. And plus, trust me, hemorrhoids are coming. That's not good.
And the fact that it takes you an extra 45 minutes in the bathroom because now we have phones that can let us literally go off onto these wild ass tangents where you're supposed to actually focus on going to the bathroom.
Right. I know. And you know what? And now I sit in the bathroom for a half hour instead of 5 minutes like I should.
That's nothing. I watched half of Avengers Endgame on my phone.
Oh my God.
It
You know
got
what?
to the point where I stood up and my legs were asleep and I went headfirst into the towel rack.
And you know what? You deserve that one.
My cousin, like he was waiting for me when I came outside the bathroom and he goes, do I need to take you to the hospital? And I'm like, why? He goes, you were in there for like 2.5 hours. I was like, yeah. And I'm like, were you on your phone? I'm like, yeah. He's like, did you have a charger in there? I was like, yeah.
You're like, well, of course, I'm watching Endgame. I'm not going to have my phone die in the middle of it.
It's like when you used to dream about having a TV in the bathroom and you realize that's probably the worst option because you would just never leave.
Yeah, you're right. But also, I still want that.
I find it if you had it like it's when you got the do you remember when Xbox used to have the DVD attachment to it?
Yeah, of course.
Dude, those made road trips awesome. Watching Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon the movie,
Yes.
that made car trips fly by.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned it too. Halo back in the day on the Xbox. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And part of me still wants to go back and play Halo because it was so good.
I remember staying up for hours at night trying to get the achievements, like the Vidmaster achievements, the hardest ones.
Oh, you know what? See, you did it a totally different way than I did. The only reason I went to play Halo is because I wanted to do something crazy in a live match, like throw a sticky bomb from all the way down and have it land on some guy's foot. One of those crazy like moments you see on YouTube.
And it's the crappy moment where the guy's mic sucks, so he goes to plug it in and he's just screaming and it's blasting through the speaker on your TV. And you just get the biggest amount of dopamine rush after that. Like your brain's like, that felt good.
And then of course you always get into a screaming match with like a 5-year-old who's calling you like every bad name in the world, and you're like, this is really weird that a 5-year-old just called me a son of a bitch.
when my parents thought the Xbox was ruining my life because I was just screaming at random people. I was like, "You're not hearing what they're saying. They're calling you whores."
Yeah, you're a bitch. You're a piece of shit. I'm just defending you, really. You should be thanking me.
Well, I guess it was better to get offensive that way than how we take it now, where if you label me wrong, I'm going to get offended and ruin your whole career.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know what? That's the whole thing. Everyone wants to end everybody, and it's like, why does it have to be that dramatic? It's like, calm down a little bit.
If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. We need to take it back to the moon shoes days.
Yes. Oh, the moon shoes. You know what? I hated the moon shoes because I watched the commercial and I said, this is it. I'm going to feel like I'm in space. It's going to be zero gravity. And you know what? For someone that weighed 100 pounds, it probably was. But I was kind of a chunky kid and they sucked. It didn't work very well.
You're supposed to act like an astronaut.
Yeah, but I don't know. It didn't do it for me. I love the commercials. I hated how they worked.
You know one thing I really hated about the 90s?
What's that?
The pacer test.
Oh, that was terrible.
That made gym class so awkward.
Did you ever win the pacer test?
No, that showed the strong from the freaks.
You know what? I don't know what it is, and I'm not trying to brag right now, but I won the pacer test a couple times.
Oh my God. For me, it was the woman. I couldn't handle her voice. It was like when I tried to listen to like some sound to go to sleep. I listened to like sounds of the ocean. There's this one on Spotify. I don't remember the name, but I swear to God, a minute into these wonderful ocean sounds, all you're hearing is a seagull go, ah, ah, every 5 seconds, dude. And you can't go to sleep. The whole time I was like awake and I was like, I want to kill that fucking seagull.
I don't know what you're listening to. It sounds very unrelaxing.
So you want to know the very first podcast I actually wanted to start?
Yeah, love to.
It was me eating a bowl of Raisin Bran just in the microphone.
What? Like ASMR stuff?
But even better, I was going to be like when you get a flake stuck in your throat, you like like get the whole cough in there and everything. You're like and then just start going back to eating Raisin Bran, and then like it would stop after like 10 minutes, and then I just pour another bowl and just go back into it.
You know what, man? I think you should still do this. I would listen to that.
Dude, I'm telling you, you'd probably get more views than this podcast would.
Well, not when I'm on it though, because my tens upon tens of fans will be flocking to it.
But see, what I enjoy about that is I like the small ones too. Like I like the ones that seem like they don't have a lot of views because they are the ones that are the best. They're the secrets hidden, man, that they're going to get out there. Like your podcast is going to get out there for sure. And I'll do my best to like, aim people towards it to get you guests and stuff too. Cause I know a bunch of people that would love to shoot the shit about 90s, man.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. I mean, you know what? For us, we're having fun. If something comes of it, that's awesome. We totally welcome that. But if it never takes off, if it's just two old friends acting like idiots for half an hour to an hour, we're still gonna do it. It doesn't matter to us.
Good way for you guys to get together and be able to hang out.
Yeah, well, honestly, it's the only way we are able to hang out due to Jed's arrangement with the courts. He has to either be at home or at work, and we've convinced them this is work, so they will let him out of prison for this.
This is fake news. We're spreading fake news about Jed to these people. You understand? Jed's episode's going up before yours, so next thing you know, people are going to be like, "Wow, he's such a good guy," and then you come on and just crap all over him like a pigeon on a statue. You're just annihilating him.
So he didn't tell you about the prison?
No, he didn't tell me about no prison.
So what did Jed have to say about me on your show?
He said that you were a wonderful guy, and he said that if he had a son, it would be you.
He said that?
No, he would never say that. He said He didn't say anything really bad. Honestly, I think you were brought up a couple of times. He was like, "You were gonna relate to this kid on such another level because you guys are practically the same age group." And I was like, "Dude, but your mentality is like the same, like relaxing mentality that a lot of people have." Like I've talked to hundreds of people from all across the globe, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I think my record for podcasts in a day was like I did 15 at like one
What?
o'clock in the morning Australian time.
Oh my God, you're a madman.
It's all because like I enjoy it, dude. It's something about like somebody just coming on. Like I've had people message me from like the worst thing I don't like what people do is they send me their credentials.
Oh,
Like
who even has that?
people that I podcast with that are like they're like people that do acupuncture, people that do like psychotherapy, people that have a bunch of doctorates, teachers. I podcast with everybody. Nobody's out of the term. And I tell people like some kid messaged me on Reddit and was like, "Look, I'm just graduated, don't really do anything, barely work, kind of unemployed." And he just like made his life seem so bad. And I was like, he's like, "I don't think I'm a perfect fit for your podcast. I know you have some amazing people on, but can I just be on your podcast?" I was like, "Hell yeah, you can." He was like, "What, really?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." We literally just shot the shit about Bigfoot and Xbox for like 2 hours.
Nice.
It,
What episode is that? I gotta hear it.
it'll be coming out. It'll be coming out.
Oh, I didn't mean to impose on the schedule.
It's all good. See, I try and tell people like me doing a bunch of podcasts in a day does not mean I belittle any of our conversations. I remember each unique individual and what episode number they were that was on my podcast.
I love that. I think
I,
that's awesome,
I
man.
can tell you from I think it was I don't want to get this wrong, but episode 10, Dawn Shockley. She's a woman that has been a very inspiration in my life, only on the fact I've worked with her for 3 years, and she has literally kept up with me even when she was out of work for a year. And she just kept up with me. How's school going? How's this going? And I was like, why don't we podcast? I go into her house. She has her teeth out. She's smoking a cigarette, wearing a Sacagawea shirt, and we're just shooting the shit. And she goes, I used to be a professional women's champion arm wrestler, right? I'm like, what?
What?
You start hearing stuff about people, man. Every podcast I've had, somebody's said something or we've gotten to a conversation where it's like, holy crap. Like if you just take the time to understand an hour with somebody, you find out some stuff, good or bad. You might help them through something. Like the reason my whole podcast started, and I'm not going to say it again because I've said it so many times, but it's about conversations with people, man. I've had friends like, all right, I guess I'll say it, but my one buddy's on my podcast, Brooks Holloway. If you look up that episode, he's the reason I started this podcast. One of the few reasons, because he called me on top of his roof drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning saying he was going to end it all. And this is the same time I'm going through depression around the age of like 20. It's why kids start drinking all the time, is because there's nothing really else to do. You feel like the life is just bills and hardship.
Yeah, amen. But I think that's great, man. And that's why you got to keep doing this podcast.
I'm going to persevere all the negative influences of this new generation stuff and just live in the 90s. I'm going to buy a tank top,
Yes.
all 90s.
Yep.
I'm going to tattoo Invader Zim on my ass.
You're going to get a bowl cut. You're going to have
yeah.
Converse.
Yeah, man. Oh, Converse. Kids don't even know nowadays.
They wish they did though. They'll never quite be as cool as we were.
Yeah, they're never going to buy Play-Doh from a dollar store and realize that they can make that silly putty fart in so many ways.
Oh, are you kidding me, dude? I've made so many inappropriate jokes with silly putty. I couldn't even tell you how many jokes I've made that are extremely offensive with that fart noise.
I'm telling you, man, there's something about being childish. Like, I think more people definitely need to release their inner kid. Like, be a Donald Trump, but just don't be an asshole. Be as childish as possible.
You get political on this podcast?
I have had people that do political podcasts get on here and talk nothing about politics. I'm like, look, everything that I know is just a source from somebody else that is probably completely one-sided. So I'm like, this is why I try and tell people I'm open-minded to everything. I'm going to give you what I think's going on. I think the problem is when you look at the government, it's red, white, and blue, but you don't understand who runs the government. It's people, and people have faults.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, that's why, to be totally honest with you, I love politics. I follow it very closely. but I never quite let people know exactly what I think anymore because it's ruined friendships and it's ruined people's opinion of me. And it's honestly, it's ruined my opinion of other people. And I hate that. I think it's so stupid.
I feel like it's weird nowadays. Like I've had people I've talked to and they open up, go, "Hey, my name's Jim. I'm a Democrat." And I'm like, "Did you just tell me your political
What?
view? Like to start off a conversation? What happened to the dude, I'd kill for some small chit chat about the weather nowadays. I feel like every time I go into the store, it's either somebody waiting to just berate me with all their problems they have in their life. And I realize we're all hurt, man. We're walking around with this shield up 24/7 when I feel like we need to go back to the more primal ways where we all got to get together and help each other out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's what it's all about. What else are we doing here? You know?
Be a child that enjoys a kid's cuisine and looks for that toy inside of the box and hopes that Ray Lewis is going to come out of their bowl of Wheaties.
Amen. And hopes that the Kool-Aid man will destroy his parents' home.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, you just broke my wall. Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's like I kind of don't give a shit because you have Kool-Aid, and that's Kool-Aid's delicious.
Yeah, that was a savage moment when he used to bust through the wall. The commercials back then were better too. The fact like Tony the Tiger would just pop off and like a family would be enjoying breakfast and nobody's freaking out that this tiger just leaped off the boxes and is in their house telling them they're great.
He broke into their home, and he then he assaulted everybody by grabbing them and bringing them into the kitchen. It really is. It's a crime that they documented in a commercial.
Nobody's going to know what the Sunny D bottle used to do when he used to play sports with people.
Oh, and it was great too. I think it could have gone pro if it didn't get into drugs.
Olympic gold right there. Well, dude, I want to tell you, man, it's been awesome talking to you, dude, on this podcast. I want to give you here a minute at the end to promote your content, dude, because I want people to find it. And I'm going to make sure I link it all in the description so people can see the awesomeness that is your podcast.
Well, Robbie, I appreciate that. And man, I so appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast getting to talk with you about the 90s, about now, and everything we talked about. But if people want to hear more, please check us out. We're the 90s Guyz podcast. Guyz is spelled with a Z because we're pretty freaking cool like that. And we drop new episodes every Wednesday and Sunday. Like we mentioned in this podcast, it's me and my buddy Jed. We're old friends that we like talking about the 90s. We love going through all the good stuff in the 90s. We have fun. We're a couple of idiots. Come check us out. And also, make sure you look out for a future episode featuring our very own Robbie.
Oh, God, I'm going to be on an episode of the 90s guy. Wait, does that mean I can have a Z in my name too?
Yes, absolutely.
Dude, remember Dodgeball where they were like, this is Blazer, this is Taser, this is Hazer. And it's like, that's such a badass name. Like, it's not good when you're graduating and the kid's last name starts with a Z, and then you're just waiting for that asshole to stand up and collect his diploma. But if you have a name that starts with a Z, it's like having the name Beowulf. Like, nobody's messing with you when the teacher calls it out because everyone's looking to you when a bear breaks into the class.
Absolutely, man. You're the guy that's going to shoot the silver bullet through its heart.
Exactly.
You got to have that guy on your side.
Van Helsing of the realist world.
You will be our Van Helsing on the 90s Guyz podcast.
Damn, you just gave me the compliment of Hugh Jackman.
Not many people have gotten that.
I'll take it, and I'm going to end on that one because that was too good for me.
Well, thanks again for having me on, Robbie.
Thanks again, and thanks for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast.